Hello. Welcome to my favorite video of the year, kind of. Yeah, not kind of, it is. This is my book bracket video where you and I together are gonna travel down memory lane. We're gonna take a look at all the books that I read in 2024 and pick my favorite from each month and then make those books fight to find out who's the winner. It's a really not scientific way of figuring out my top 3 and then top 1 book, but it is fun. It's fun. I have been thinking about doing this video. I mean, I've done it for the last couple of years. I love doing it, and I try all year not to think about it because I don't want to be pondering like, oh, what was my favorite August book? Oh, what was my favorite June book? Like, I don't want to think about that. I just want to go through it now. We can have a full, honest reaction together. So that's what's up. I have this template, I don't know, over here, and it's one that I've shared on my YouTube community page. So you can go find it there if you want to do your own bracket. I also shared one that doesn't have the months pre-written in case you want to do it in a different order for whatever reason. That's just how I'm doing it. So let's just hop to it, I guess. I sort of changed the way that the months are arranged every year so that it's like a fun surprise. And there's a couple of months that I'm already nervous about just because I know. We'll get there. But right now we're gonna just travel back in time to January and see what I was reading in January. So I'm sorry if I'm looking down, I have my laptop in front of me with all the info. So I read 6 books in January. I gave 2 of them 5 stars. Those 2 were Jade War by Fonda Lee and Those Beyond the Wall by Micaiah Johnson. And it's gonna go to Those Beyond the Wall right away because Jade War was a sequel, and so I just sort of feel like, and I think Jade City was in my book bracket in the top 3, I think, even from last year. So we're gonna let Those Beyond the Wall jump in. And now we're gonna move on to February. In February, I read 3 books and none of them were 5 stars, but I did give 4 stars to one book, which was Secrets Typed in Blood by Stephen Spotswood. This was a mystery. Shall I talk about the books as I'm picking them? I guess I kind of will, because I don't know that I talked about this book before. It's a mystery. It's in like 1800s New York City, I think. Or is it in London? It's in a city. And it's like private detectives, basically. And you know, I picked it up on a total whim and I ended up really liking it. So, you know, it wasn't the perfect book, but I sure had fun reading it. But it's like the 3rd in a series and I never went back to read any of the other ones. So that's what I mean about this not being very scientific, because there were 2 5-star books that I could have picked from January and only a 4-star from February. So if January and February were going to head to head, you kind of would already know that like February had no chance because the 5-star would take the win. Whatever, we're moving on to March. And in March I had 1 5-star book, and that was Burnham Wood, and I knew that this book was gonna make this bracket. I loved that book. I talked about it in a vlog. I don't remember which one. It's sort of climate fiction. It's about this nonprofit who is like a guerrilla gardening group, basically, like guerrilla farming. And they end up getting involved with this huge piece of land, like kind of not in the most legal way. But it's like, this is their shot to really like, you know, do their thing. But they end up getting mixed up with this like American billionaire. It's set in New Zealand. And things just go a little haywire, but it was, oh my god, it was so good. I can't believe I read it so early in the year. Wow. Burnham Wood. Love. Love, love, love. Okay. Now moving on to April. In April, I read 5 books again. 2 5 stars. But here's the thing. One of them was Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb. That is the final book in the Farseer trilogy, which is a favorite of mine and has appeared in this bracket before. So I think for April, this is April, right? I'm gonna give it to A History of Burning by Janika Oza. This was a book I read for the Carol Shields Prize for Fiction. It's a multi-generational sort of saga that starts in India, moves to Uganda, and then to Canada. And I thought the writing was so good. I loved the characters. Like, I love those kinds of stories, and this sort of brought up some stuff that I didn't really even know happened, so love that. Great book. That brings us to May. Sorry, that brings us to May. And I have 2 5-star books in May as well. One of them is Damnation Spring by Ash Davidson. This is actually the first ARC I ever got from NetGalley. It was published in 2001. And I just read it this year, so oops. Loved it. That's another piece of eco-fiction sort of about the logging industry and herbicides. And the other book is the book that's going to get put on the chart because that was Brotherless Night by V.V. Ganeshanathan. This is another book that I just know, like, this is one of my top books of the year. It was such an emotional ride for me. I gave it as a gift for Christmas to my mother-in-law because I think it's phenomenal, and she, I think, really appreciates excellent storytelling. And that's what this book was about. It's about the Sri Lankan Civil War in the 1980s and how it sort of can impact people on like a personal level. I love, and there has been a lot on this list already, and there's probably going to be more. I love historical fiction that really, just gives you a one-person perspective or a one-family perspective on like global issues, big political events. But it's like, well, what if you're just an 18, 19-year-old girl who wants to go to medical school, but now, like, your country is being torn apart. So, phenomenal book. Phenomenal book. Oh my gosh. And that was May. That's another book that I read for the Carol Shields Prize for Fiction. Okay, moving on to June. Okay, June was a big month for me. I read 10 books. 3 5 stars. What were they? Oh no. This is going to be difficult. One of them was Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. This is maybe like semi-autobiographical. I'm not really sure. It's a book about a young boy on his 14th birthday, and he's maybe like having some thoughts about his sexuality, but then it sort of goes to tell the story of like the past, the life story of like all of the adults that are around him and that made him and are raising him and stuff. It was just a very wide story, and James Baldwin's writing is just phenomenal. So I loved that book. The Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver. This is another amazing work. And I listened to the audiobook, which was excellent. And it's about like a family from the South, a white family from the southern United States who travel to Africa as missionaries, and sort of like what all goes on. And just because it's from the perspectives of all the children of that family of various ages, I just remember there being such like funny moments, and also some of the younger girls, like their view of things is just it was so funny. And so, I don't know, they notice things that you don't think they do and all that. So I loved the perspectives in that novel. And then I also have Tin Man by Sarah Winman, which is another just like kind of plotless about the lives of 2 gay men in the 1960s, 70s, 80s maybe? I don't really remember. But I think I'm going to give it to the Poisonwood Bible because I think about that a lot. Yeah. Okay, July. July was a six book month, and I only had 1 5-star, and that was Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb, which I'm pretty sure was in the top 3 from last year. So I kind of don't want to put it on my book bracket this year. I just feel like a reread. I've been treating them like they should not be counting, so I kind of don't want to count that one. But then I have 2 4 stars, Gold Diggers by Sanjana Sathian and Thinking Inside the Box by Adrienne Raffel, which was about crosswords, so nonfiction about crosswords. That was actually really fun, but Gold Diggers was also really good. It's just that like they were not as good as Ship of Magic. No, I'm gonna I'm gonna do Gold Diggers because it was bless you. I wish you could see the face that he's making. So it's gonna be Gold Diggers for me. I think that one was closer to a 5 than Thinking Inside the Box, and it's about an Indian American family, I guess 2 friends who are both from Indian American families, and how they deal with like the immigrant parent expectations and like what the American dream means to different cultural groups, I guess is what I'll say. It was really fun, if a little weird. And that was July. Yeah, it has a lot going for it about like ambition and like, yeah, that's our pick. That's our pick for July. On to August. August was another 6-book month, and I had 2 5 stars in this month: The City in Glass by Nevo and The Ministry of Time by Kellyanne Bradley. I think that's how you say her name. This is tough. These 2 were both such good books. The City in Glass is kind of plotless. It's about a demon who has been like raising this city, and then some angels kind of smite the city, and so she, with the help sort of one of the angels who she has gravely injured, well, not gravely because he can't die because he's an angel, rebuild it over centuries. And it was just such beautiful like vignettes and about like the history and the life of place. I don't know, I really loved reading it. I thought it was whatever. I love Nevo. Okay, The Ministry of Time is a time travel book where this woman works for the government, and they are like bringing people from history to the present moment, and each of those people kind of gets like a babysitter to help them navigate the world. It was really fun. It was not what I expected. The ending, oh my god, not what I expected. But I think it's gonna be The City in Glass. Something about the little bits and bobs like just like makes my heart hurt thinking about in that book. And it's short. Yeah, I think that's the right choice. Sorry, Ministry of Time. Okay, we're nearing the trouble months. I'll say that. But first we have September. Another 10-book month. Is she okay? Wow, and 4 5 stars. One of them was Robin Hobb, Mad Ship, so we won't talk about that. One of them, also a reread, was You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. The other 2 were More Than a Glitch by Meredith Broussard, which was nonfiction about AI, basically, and algorithms. Not necessarily AI, but algorithms, and this trouble with letting them run the show, I guess. And the other 5-star was Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers, and that one's gonna go on the chart. That is a sequel to Psalm for the Wild Built, and I just loved it. I think I've heard from many other reviewers about how the first book just like hits you if you're at a certain place in your life, or you're dealing with a certain kind of change in your life or something. Like, that book can be really impactful, and I did feel that when I read it. But then when I read the second one, I felt that for the second one, because it's just sort of like about a different sort of thing. I don't know, and I can't even enunciate what that is, but it resonated more strongly with me than the first in the series, which I think I only gave 4 stars. And More Than a Glitch, like, it was good, but I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to put it on the board. It wasn't good enough. Now when we have A Prayer for the Crown Shy. Although there is something troubling now, which is that there's maybe going to be no nonfiction on this, which aligns with how I felt about my reading this year, which is that I didn't read any nonfiction, when in fact, let me check my stats. I read a lot of nonfiction. I read 13 nonfiction books, which was equal to my literary fiction and slightly under my fantasy reading. Like, those were my big 3 categories, actually. Literary fiction, fantasy, and nonfiction. So the fact that we're not getting any on the book bracket, they just weren't that good. Okay, here's a trouble month. October. I only finished 2 books in October. It's not that troubling, but like a little bit. So first we have, well, they're both 4 stars. I read Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett and A Fine Balance by Rohin Mystery. Both historical fiction, both from my 30 by 30 list. It's going to be a fine balance. And it's possible that's because 2 months after I read this, it was the book club pick for one of the book clubs I'm in, and we had a really good discussion about it, and that sort of like cemented some of the things that I was like, what was the deal with that? And just like talking about it, I really was like, oh, I get it. Like I think maybe it should have been 5 stars, but I'm not going to change my rating. I'm standing by my 4-star, but that is going to be my October pick. Tough. That was tough. A tough month. Here's something else that's tough. I read 1 book in November, and I gave it 2 stars. So I don't want to put it on the board because it just doesn't seem fair. So what I'm actually going to do, because I had so many 5 stars, I had 25 stars. So I think I'm just going to randomly pick one of the 5 stars that didn't make it on the board after we picked December's book to fill the November slot, because I don't want to put a 2-star book on this. I just don't want to. So let's pick my December book. I have 3 5 stars. One of them was Ship of Destiny, so we're deciding that rereads don't count. The other 2 were The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This is a fantasy novel. I guess it's a fantasy romance. And it's a Vampire Hunger Games is the easiest tagline I can give it. It's a competition for a wish from the goddess that is like fight to the death in the arena, except for it's like a months-long ordeal. And it's a world with vampires and humans coexisting. They don't coexist because one of them is prey and it's the humans. But this is about a human girl who enters this games, which is full of other vampires. And I was shocked by how much of a good time I had. I thought I was going to have a fine time. I had a fantastic time. That book had problems, and that's why I'm going to pick the other 5-star to go on my chart, but we had fun. The book that's going to go on my book bracket is The Color Purple by Alice Walker, which I loved. Kind of some similar theme stuff as the Poisonwood Bible, although this was set, I think, a bit later. I wonder if they're set at the same time. This was about 2 sisters from the American South, I think. I don't remember where. And they have a pretty horrible home life, and one of them gets married off to this guy who treats her horribly, and the other one ends up going with another Black family to be missionaries in Africa. And the rest of the book is sort of told in like letters between them. And I loved it. I thought it was just such a fun exploration. Fun is the wrong word. It was an excellent exploration of religion, God, and also kinds of relationships. There were queer relationships, there was exploration, there was friendship, there was like phenomenal. Okay, let's just leave it at that. So now we have to pick our November book. So I have 25 stars. I'm just gonna randomly pick one, and then if it's already on the board or it was a reread, I'll just pick another one. So let's see which one it is. Jade War. Now we've got 12, I think maybe there's 2 4 stars here, and then 10 5 stars. Now comes the really horrific part, which is pitting them against each other. So we're gonna put January's Those Beyond the Wall and March's Burnham Wood head to head. It's gonna be Burnham Wood. It's just gotta be. I love her so much. Then February, Secrets Typed in Blood versus April's A History of Burning. One of those was a 5-star, and it's The History of Burning. So that one is moving forward in the bracket. These are actually not as hard as I was expecting. Famous Last Words. Okay. May versus July. Brotherless Night versus Gold Diggers. Again, it's gonna be Brotherless Night because that's like, I know that that's like one of my best books this year, and Gold Diggers was only 4 stars. It's just not right to do it like this sometimes. It's okay. It's just what's happening. June versus August. The Poisonwood Bible and The City in Glass. This is going to be a challenge. It's going to be The City in Glass. I really loved that book. I don't know what to say. I really loved that book. September versus November. A Prayer for the Crown Shy versus Jade War. Both sequels, both fantasy sequels from series that I love, authors that I love. Becky Chambers is like maybe a favorite author of mine. I never read the 3rd book of the Jade City, or the Greenbone Saga series. That's what it's called. I'm just filling the air while I think. Man, I think it's gonna be A Prayer for the Crown Shy. It's just like, I feel like I don't remember that much specifically about either of these, but I did cry at one point reading The Prayer for the Crown Shy, so she's moving up in the world. And then our final month-to-month face-off is going to be October's A Fine Balance versus December's The Color Purple, and it's going to be The Color Purple. Stress and fear. We'll go back to the beginning. Birnam Wood versus A History of Burning. It's Birnam Wood. Brotherless Night versus The City in Glass. It's Brotherless Night. I'm so sorry to The City in Glass. It was a good run. And A Prayer for the Crown Shy versus The Color Purple. Now, it's just also, there's recency bias. I finished The Color Purple like a week or two ago, maybe a week ago. And I listened to it as an audiobook that was read by the author. So that was a really tremendous way to have the story delivered, is her reading it. I'm a little bit surprised by how this is turning out. I guess it's going to be The Color Purple over The Crown Shy. So our top 3 books of the year are Brotherless Night, a historical fiction about Sri Lankan Civil War, Birnam Wood, a sort of almost Shakespearean inspired eco-fiction piece of literary fiction, contemporary, and then another a classic, maybe an American classic. I think this is a good range. Again, I'm a little bit surprised that there's no nonfiction, and I sort of would have, like, in my head I would have picked a literary fiction, a nonfiction, and a fantasy, because those are my top 3 genres. So that's sort of what I expected to see here, and that's what we've seen here in the past. But anyway, that's not what we're seeing today. I think it's Brotherless Night. Or is it Birnam Wood? I think my difficulty in thinking about those two is that I love them both so much, but I think like everybody should read Brotherless Night, and I don't think everybody should read Birnam Wood. I just don't think that the book is for everyone. But I felt something so... There was some stuff in Brotherless Night that just felt so timely and like current that I was like, wow, I need to be making people read this book, because it sort of offers additional perspectives on other present wars. Like, I think it's Brotherless Night. So that's what we're gonna do. Okay, my favorite book from 2024 was Brotherless Night. So let me know if you've read it, or if you're gonna read it now that you know it's my favorite. I hope to see more people reading this in the new year. It did win the Women's Prize and the Carol Shields Prize for Fiction, which I think I'm a little like, did you need to win both? Just because, like, can someone else win? But deserved, you know, in my opinion. And it was, those were my top 2. Carol Shields' book, Birnam Wood, and Brotherless Night. Anyway, what a journey we've just been on. What a weird ride. Someday I hope to have just 12 5-star reads in a year so that I can do this more easily. But also, like, I liked that I had so many 5 stars this year. Like, having 20, that was so fun. That's almost a third of my reads. So that's a good feeling. And it was also helpful because I had a goal this year of having my average star rating be 4.0 when it ended up being 3.92. So I was close there. I was close. But anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me while I struggled through this book bracket. It was honestly easier this time than it has been in years past. Maybe I'm just learning not to take it as seriously, or maybe the matchups were just a little easier. Either way, like I said, this, or did I say this graphic and one without the months put in case you want to put your months in differently, are both shared in a community post on my YouTube community page. If you go to my channel page, you'll be able to find it. And if you do this video, or if you just do it like on a different social media, I don't know, just tag me or let me know in the comments to look for it, because I would love to see. I love the book bracket videos. It's so hard, but it's so fun. So thanks again for being here, and I'll catch you sometime soon with another video. I promise. I know I always say that, but I mean it.